I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. Special program today. Special because, as I promised last week, today I get a chance to hang out with another one of my great brothers. My brother, Wain McFarlane. Wain McFarlane and Friends are down at the Dakota Jazz Club in downtown Minneapolis right now. They're setting up for their show tonight. If you've got some time tonight, drop down, check out Wain McFarlane and Friends at the Dakota. And I asked Wain, could we eavesdrop? Could we come down while you guys are setting up and do our live program with you providing music for the program? It kind of reminds me of what we used to do back in the day when we did this program live from Lucille's Kitchen in North Minneapolis. Well, Wain, are you there? And let me see. Wain's going to start playing in just a second, I believe. We'll go live to the Dakota. But today's program is going to be special because we've got Keith Ellison coming up, and at the bottom of the hour,
how you doing, Al?
Ilhan Omar. Wain, I'm doing great.
Good. We're hanging out right here in Minneapolis, waiting for the show tonight.
Okay. Well, who's with you today?
Gotta get ready. Get ready. You gotta get ready. Get ready. You gotta get ready. Get ready. I wanna tell you a story. Happened not so long ago. We're headed for night out on the town. Did not know what was in store. Then a policeman pulled up next to me. Asked me why was I in his neighborhood. I said, look, he tried to tell me I didn't belong around here. I said, I own this house. We'll have to go toe to toe. You gotta get ready. Get ready. 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 We're gonna go directly to our host, Mr. Al McFarlane. Skip up. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh boy. This reminds me of the fun we used to have every week down at Lucille's Kitchen in North Minneapolis. We had it was called the Insight KMOJ Public Policy Forum at first, then we renamed it, rebranded it to Conversations with Al McFarlane. But it was the high point of my life, but also the high point of our community. We use this relationship to create a vibe and energy around public policy being the domain of North Minneapolis and our community. So this gives me the same feeling. Again, I'm glad to be doing this, glad to have my brother Wain on stage here from the Dakota. I want to remind people that Wain is playing live tonight at the Dakota. Get down there, check it out, have some good information. We also are going to be expecting momentarily to be joined by Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison for today's program. Also on today's program, we're expecting a check-in with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Until they come in, let me send you right back to Wain and to the guys down at the Dakota. Wain, we have some latency issues here. It's okay, we work around it, but tell me who's with you playing today in the sound check, and then let's do another piece, okay? Be right back to Wain and to the guys down at the Dakota. Wain, we have some latency issues here. Okay, work around it, but tell me who's with you playing today in the sound check, and then let's do another piece, okay?
Okay. On keyboards, Mr. Ryan Bynum. one of the most amazing keyboard players in the Minnesota for certain, and Midwest, and internationally as well. He travels quite a bit, and I'm lucky and blessed to have him here in Minneapolis, working with me this morning. Mr. Charles Hayes on bass. He'll be playing some incredible new ways and innovative ways of bass musicianship. On drums, Mr. Kevin Washington, internationally renowned drummer, educator, teacher, professor, and a mentor. Over on upright bass, the contrabass, we have Mr. Jorgen Lynn. Jorgen Lynn, fantastical, right? And on saxophone, an ipso facto lifetime member of 25 years, or maybe 30, I've lost track, Mr. Jose James. Jose James on saxophone. And we're going to take you down to St. Thomas. Uno. Are you ready? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Saxophone. Yeah. Keyboard. Come on, come on. Drummer. Bass, Charles Hayes. That's right. Jorgen. That's right. Come on. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna go right back to our host, Mr. Al McFarlane. Yeah, I wanna go, I wanna go.
I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. What a special day for me. I hope it's special for you as well. Let me bring my co-host, my partner, my writing partner in, Brenda Lyle-Gray. Brenda Lyle-Gray joins me every day for the Conversation with Al McFarlane. She's a writer, a columnist, an author, and an educator. And Brenda and I hang out every day to interview our guests and to discuss issues. Brenda, how are you, my friend?
Fine, and I'm just here. Wayne finally up close and personal. It was great. I wished I was there to come to the Dakota.
Well, you know, I tell you, this is really special. Wayne and I have had many, many, many magical moments. What I love about doing this show with Wayne live is that somehow the spirit, the ancestors always guide Wayne. He not only has this masterful knowledge of his craft and of the times that we're in, but he has this uncanny ability to connect with the energy of the moment and almost, it's almost unexplainable how he would always come up with the right song at the right time to go with the topic at hand. That's like we opened today. Get ready. The lyrics there.
Heard it.
We used to play it all the time. I haven't heard that in years, but boy, it's like it was written yesterday for today. The story is present, it's current, and it's a powerful story. So I'm so glad to do that. Then, Brenda, we've been doing great stuff here on KFAI and on our regular daily program, just connecting with audiences around the country on different themes. Every Monday, for example, we're doing our features on the political landscape, where we interview candidates for office, do that in conjunction with our friends over at Hawthorne Neighborhood Council, Diana Hawkins and her team, where we ask candidates to come forward and be accountable to the Black community. We bring tough questions and expect them to respond to the challenge of inquiry on behalf of the voters of Minneapolis. This Tuesday show live on KFAI is just a wonderful resource because we use this to connect with our friends and partners around the country and around the world. Last week, I think, and next week we have the connection with Jesus Chucho Garcia, who will be joining us from Barlovento, Venezuela, and he's connecting with a activist who's in Mali, talking about the current crisis in government and in society in the West African nation of Mali. So technology affords us a chance to make connections that we couldn't make years ago. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I am so glad that we have both the presence of mind and access to the tools to bring people together across continents and across neighborhoods, across cultures, and across time. I think it's cool. What do you think, Brenda?
Well, I think it's exciting, and I think your future with connecting globally is just, the potential is unlimited. And it's really, I love hearing Maestro, is it Senna? Is that how you pronounce it?
Maestre Senna, Yoji Senna. And he might be
just so passionate and, wants to connect with so many people. And I just think it's great. So, infinite wisdom getting ready to be spread across the world, coming from the conversation.
I'm sending Yoji a text now and telling him that if he gets us to join the call as well. So let's go back to Wain. We've got about a 7-second delay between our studios and the bandstand down at the Dakota. But Wain will get this message in a second and start another song. So Wain, if you hear me, go ahead and begin.
He's wearing that cowboy hat. I love it.
Well, Wain calls himself the Dreadlock Cowboy, and there's a story behind
it. I love it.
So and I sent a text to him as well so that he can go ahead and begin. Wain, if you get the message, go ahead and start again.
Can I get a heartbeat? Hello there, friends. I'm so glad that we met. I might be taking chances. I'll take that bet. If you give me some time with you, don't take no promises I can't hold you to. And this is what we said. Ooh, oh, oh, I carry on, carry on. Hello there, friend. I'm so glad we met. Might be taking chances. I'll take that. If you give me some time with you, don't make no promises I can hold you to. Patience, you said, it will be all right. As the night moves miles from darkness to light. Watch this while I plant my seed in your ground, And from these roots, I know her love can be found. Carry on, carry on, carry on, carry on, carry on. I've got to make a move. Carry on, gotta feel brand new groove. Carry on, with my world, yeah. Carry on. I've got my life, you got yours. In this time and space, we can't close no door. Our roads ahead so straight and sure. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, who could ask for more? Patience, you said it again. Everything will be alright. As the night moves from darkness to light. And I heard the birds sing, and I heard God speak out loud. He said, make me a whole man again. And I played my saxophone from the heaven. Jose J. Carry on. Carry on. Carry on. Carry on. Carry on. Carry on. We've got to find a new way. Carry on. Carry on.
Oh boy, oh boy. Wayne, I love it, man. Wayne's music is rich, it's spiritual, it's perfect, it's always right. Keith Ellison's here. Keith, come on in, man. Keith, you and I go back to the beginning of this conversations with Al McFarlane thing and Lucille's Kitchen. So this is like old times for me and you.
Yeah, brother. Well, you know what? I tell you, man, it is such a joy to celebrate long-term friendship.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have been good buddies for ages. Brenda, good to see you too, dear.
Good seeing you too.
And you knew me before I held any political office at all.
Yep.
In fact, Al, I don't know if you remember this, but way back in the day, the Way was in some difficulty with the Attorney General's office.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a student lawyer practicing under the student practice rule, representing them. And we negotiated the merger between the Way and the City Inc.
I remember.
Yeah, and so that was the lawyer who supervised me, because you can't, if you're operating under the student practice rule, you need a supervising lawyer. That was Larry Reed.
Oh sure.
Yeah, and so we got together, we did it. That was when I got to know you and Randy, and this is way back in the 80s, man. This is 1988.
Yeah. Well, we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot, man. And it's wonderful just to reflect on where we've come from and our community. And Keith, I have to keep applauding you for, number one, you published a book, you've won election to the House of Representatives, to the U.S. House of Representatives, and now you're the Attorney General for the state of Minnesota. What a phenomenal career, and you're still a young man.
That's what I'm telling everybody.
Yeah,
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Ellen, I say the same thing.
All right, all right, Brenda. Well, hey,
So
man, how are you?
I'm well. I'm well. I'm excited. I'm getting through COVID.
Yeah,
I haven't had it, but I'm trying to continue to
not
avoid it.
right.
And so I'm being careful. I'm following protocols. I'm just being
Wise,
really careful.
wise.
All the work I'm doing is pretty much virtual. Every now and then I get out to do something in person I have to do, but generally I'm trying to be mindful, and I'm anxious to keep talking about it because I think it's a conversation we need to have in our community to be aware that COVID has not gone away, that it's morphing, and we still are at risk. We still have to pay attention. So I know that you're saying as well as one of the officers of our state.
Absolutely. COVID is a lethal disease. People die from it. Now, I urge people to get vaccinated, get your second booster, right?
Mhm.
We want to keep everybody here, there. And also, I will say this, Alan, you and I have talked about this. We're still unpacking the psychosocial impact of COVID and the quarantine.
Mm.
We've seen so many measures of human wellness go in the wrong direction because of COVID. So, for example, domestic violence is up. Opioid use is up. Alcoholism is up. Alcohol purchases are up. Crime is up. There's all these measures of human well-being that are negatively impacted by COVID. People have got more anxiety. Consumer confidence is low right now. The bottom line is we've got to ask ourselves, how are we doing? You should always ask your friends and neighbors and coworkers how they're doing, because it's not easy getting through this. No one has seen anything like this since 1917.
It was the Red Scare, right?
Well, that was when you had that's the last time you had a worldwide pandemic.
Mhm.
They called it the Spanish flu,
Spanish
misnamed.
flu, yeah.
It was misnamed,
Okay.
but it was an international influenza pandemic.
Mhm.
It took the lives of a lot of people. They didn't have all of the medical precautions we have. They didn't have ventilators. They didn't have vaccines. It's just a lot of people died. And at the same time, you're right. World War I was raging.
Mhm.
Disease was raging, and it was a time when some of the most vitriolic racism our country's ever seen was absolutely raging. It was 1920 when we saw the three circus workers in Duluth hung from a light pole for a crime they didn't commit. Oh, you didn't know about that one, Brenda?
No,
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't.
Well, Brenda, anytime you go up to Duluth, you should go up to the memorial, where you will see the three men who were hung to a light pole in Duluth because a lady named Irene Tuscan falsely accused them of rape, and they didn't do it. They didn't have nothing to do with it, but they were killed for it. And a lot of the times when you have books on lynching, this iconic photograph will come up. A lot of people don't know it's from our state, and it's Clayton Jackson McGee Memorial, right there in downtown Duluth.
In so many ways, it feels like we're approaching that again today. On the one hand, a lot of advances, a lot of movement that is progressive in nature, that was exemplary, but at the same time, a particularly vicious resistance and call for a return. The phrase was "Make America Great Again." It's our former president beckoning to that evil spirit, that spirit of insufficiency, and of anger and of hatred that is the core stuff of white supremacist thought. That has emerged again. What do we do about that? And how do you see it from where you stand, Attorney General Ellison?
Well, let me tell you, I think it's important to understand who it is that you're talking about. We're talking about people who are sociopathic and psychopathic. We're talking about people who are malevolent, who will do anything for the sake of power, say anything for the sake of power. And the January 6 hearings have revealed just how desperate for power and control Trump really is. And so here's the standpoint. Can you go to a person and like appease them? Is it, and if you try, what did they read that as? They read it as they win. You lost.
Yep.
You capitulated to me because you know what's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to a guy like Trump, the only way to deal with him, if you want to stop dealing with him, is to confront him and stand up to him. And anybody who operates like him, Jim Jones, any kind of cult leader like that, you've got to stand up to them, because if you don't, they'll never stop. There won't be enough you can do for them, right? So in my opinion, you have to prosecute this kind of illegal conduct. And again, interesting thing when it comes to the world of white supremacy, you have more and more old white supremacists who are abandoning it. I remember that when I had a case back when I first met you, I was just a young lawyer. And by this time, I was actually practicing law. My client was a young white man who they were trying to recruit into the white supremacist group. He tells them they are sick and effed up. We're on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And they physically attack him. He fights back, and then they go to the police and say, oh, that guy attacked me just because of my beliefs. Yes, I'm a Nazi, but it's my right to be a Nazi. And he attacked me physically for it. We go to trial. My client's charged with a felony. We go to trial and we win, not guilty, all counts. Who was the person who claimed to be hit? A guy named Jeff Shep. This guy today is making sincere appeals for people to leave white supremacy.
Mm.
And some people are like, do you believe him? I'm like, put it like this. Him speaking against white supremacy could put his life at risk.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I believe him. There's another one named Christian Picciolini. Here's an interesting thing that happened to Christian Picciolini and Jeff Shep.
Mm.
Under the Trump administration, they had a group called After Hate.
Mm-hmm.
It was a federally funded program to sort of deprogram people who are caught up in the hate movement. The Trump administration zeroed them, defunded them completely, and said, we're not going to support anything like that. When Christian Picciolini came to town to say, look, I used to be in the Nazi group. It's like a gang. It's a seduction process. They're taking young white guys that don't have much, confidence in their future, and they're giving them something to be part of. It's no different from any kind of gang recruitment. But I'm telling you, they used me. I was susceptible to being used. The Trump administration said that they're not going to fund that kind of behavior. And yet at the same time, when the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security said the white supremacist violence is the number one type of violence the country need to be worried about, even that report that they issued was zeroed out. The right wing in Congress said, don't even do this. You're picking on us. I'm like, picking on you? No, we're talking about white supremacists. How's that picking on you? Well, now we know, right? I mean, just the other day, you had this woman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, calling herself a Christian nationalist. Now, look, I'm a Muslim, but my whole family's Christian. You're Christian. I have some of the most beloved people in my life are Christian, and some people they want the United States to invest in America, so they think that they might be Christian nationalists. Let me tell you what, this term is an old term used by the most racist people in the country. Don't ever call yourself that, because you don't want to be associated with the horrific, nasty people who have called themselves that. This is an ugly, odious term and used by people who were like I don't know if y'all ever heard of Father Coughlin. You got to dig back in the history books, but look up Father Coughlin. He was talking about the international Jew is manipulating the country. They hated Roosevelt, by the way. They all, and this other guy was Gerald L.K. Smith. Gerald L.K. Smith. Look him up. And they were all on TV. You had huge Nazi. They took out the Madison Square Garden. They had huge groups, and they would say, we're coming out of the Depression. A lot of y'all are poor. A lot of y'all are out of work. A lot of y'all having economic hard times. The reason is twofold. One, the blacks are taking your jobs and trying to rape your women. And two, the international Jew is trying to, he's manipulating everything, and he's promoting these black people to try to take your job. And so you had lynchings all over the country, and you had this horrific situation. Any good politician like Franklin Roosevelt, who tried to pass laws to give people some opportunity, they would say he would call him a communist. He's a socialist. He's a communist. And then you had the John Birch Society come up. So what I'm telling y'all is we are seeing a replay. Smart people said history never repeats itself, but it does rhyme. It seems the same. It sounds the same. Not exactly the same. So if you're looking for exactitude, you're going to miss it. But if you're looking for similarity, you're going to catch it. I hope somebody watching this show looks up Father Coughlin and Gerald L.K. Smith and the history of calling yourself a Christian nationalist. It is associated with racism and anti-Semitism, and it's like the America First. America First is not the. I mean, Trump is not the first person who said America First. I mean, Charles Lindbergh said it, a Nazi sympathizer. You know.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. My guest is Keith Ellison, Minnesota Attorney General. Keith, I'm going to have you come back in a couple of seconds and talk about women's rights and what that means with Roe v. Wade. Let's check out Wain. Wain's playing right now, doing his sound check at the Dakota Club downtown. Let's pull him in. And can you bring the audio in, Vosh?
Can't help my smile every time you squeeze me. I do anything to please thee. I wanna be a cowboy too. I'm just dreadlock cowboy coming to your town. I'm just dreadlock cowboy coming to your town. Here I am, falling in love again. What can I do? Hope you understand it's true. I'm the one for you, you're the one for me. I'm Mr. Dreadlock Cowboy coming to you. Dreadlock Cowboy coming to your town. Dreadlock Cowboy coming to your town. I'm just alright. Dreadlock Cowboy coming to you. Hey, Poppy, help me out. Cowboy hat. You know what I may be, there's nothing wrong with that. Forever by my side, we can rap at you right. Come and when you see the when it's talking, riding free. Oh yeah, you and me. Ooh, riding free. Oh yeah, you and me. Ooh, I'm just dreadlock cowboy coming to your town. 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 Keith Ellison, love you, bro. Coming to your town. Call me up sometime. I got something to talk about. Coming to your town. Hey, coming to your town. Oh, coming to your town. We've got to take care of each other. Coming to your town. Coming to your day. Coming to your town. Coming to your town. Coming to your town.
As
and here we come
always,
to your town.
As always, my brother Wain McFarlane. So Wain is playing tonight down at the Dakota in downtown Minneapolis. And the show tonight is called Wain's Brains Musical Magical Mystery Show. I guarantee you that's exactly what it's going to be. Do yourself a favor, take a treat, and get down to check out Wain and company, Wain and Friends at the Dakota in downtown Minneapolis tonight. Keith, thank you for hanging out with us and for being here. I wanted to ask you, you've made some very strong statements about protecting and defending the rights of women. particularly in response to the Supreme Court's decision, in a sense, dismantling Roe v. Wade. Take us through that. Where do we stand? And what's Minnesota's position? What's your position? What can women expect in defense of their rights by the state of Minnesota?
Thanks for asking. This is an extremely important conversation. Let me start by saying that this is not only about women, this is about all of us. Why? Because the case of Roe versus Wade was based on the Supreme Court in 1972 finding that there was a right to privacy, meaning that a person could make decisions about things that affected them very intimately of a family nature, and it was their constitutional right to make those decisions based on their right to privacy that the government could not interfere with. And what were those rights? Well, one of them was part of that was the 1968 Loving versus Virginia, that a black woman and a white man got married in Virginia. And in 1968, the Supreme Court found that the state had no right to inject itself into that marital decision. Then there was Connecticut versus Griswold, which is a case where some folks bought contraception. So they wanted to regulate whether they were going to have kids or not. And there have been a lot of decisions based on this right to privacy. 1972, the Supreme Court said, look, as long before the period of viability, that is a woman's prerogative to carry that pregnancy to term or not. It's not really up to the government to decide what should happen. Now, that case lasted for a long time. It was reinforced by a case called the Casey case. And then, of course, in 1995, Minnesota, which has its own constitution, made a decision under a case called Doe, D-O-E, versus Gomez, that in Minnesota, under the Minnesota Constitution, there is a constitutional right to seek and get an abortion and get government assistance to pay for it. Now, only a few weeks ago, the United States Supreme Court, after being packed with right-wing extremists, made a 6-3 decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. And in that decision, Judge Alito said that there is no right to an abortion. And it said that the Constitution does not contemplate such a right. And he said further that it's not written in there. So there's no words, you got a right to an abortion. So it's not there. He said it could be there because not all the rights are enumerated or specifically identified, but it would have to be, quote unquote, deeply rooted. It would have to be deeply rooted. And he went back to the 1800s. So in other words, unless you had unless it's written into the Constitution or unless the right was recognized in 1791 when the Bill of Rights was written, then you don't have that constitutional right, according to this Supreme Court. Now, everybody knows President Obama was literally robbed of a Supreme Court appointment. We got Amy Coney Barrett in at the right before the change of an election, but actually it was Gorsuch who was the one who was put in because Mitch McConnell would not tolerate the first black president, the 44th president, from getting a Supreme Court appointment he was legally entitled to. If that appointment would have been made, and if you put that together with Roberts, who did not want to overturn Roe versus Wade, you might have seen Roe versus Wade upheld again. But because of that theft, you get Roberts basically not wanting to be joining the three, and so you end up in a situation where you have 4 hardcore right-wing extremists plus Roberts, says, okay, I guess I got to go along with you guys. And then you end up with a 6-3 decision. So, so you got the 5, so you end up in a situation where, you take 2 away and you end up with the decision of going the other way. Mm-hmm. So long story short, we are in a situation where your federal right to privacy is under threat. Under the, in the main opinion, Alito says this nonsense about it either has to be written in there, it has to be well rooted, which, and by the way, 50 years of Supreme Court precedents, well rooted, deeply rooted in my opinion, but they didn't think so. That we got to go back to the 1790s for them. Actually, they cited a judge who used to be famous for chasing after witches from the 1400s, right? And so literally that's the kind of legal analysis we have ruling the country at this point.
Let me bring another voice in, Keith. You know, your successor in CD5, Ilhan Omar, has joined us. Representative Ilhan Omar. Ilhan, good to see you. Thank you for being here. You were arrested a few days ago, one of 17 lawmakers arrested at a protest outside of the Supreme Court. Talk to us about that, and join in this conversation with Attorney General Ellison about the importance of the issues facing our community right now.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here with you, Al. It's always great to see our Attorney General, Keith Ellison. We were arrested in front of the Supreme Court protesting the decision that they made, that Keith so eloquently just described how detrimental that decision is, and what it actually means in this moment. That decision in itself was basically about privacy. It is about bodily autonomy. It's about women and all people in this country having the right to make a decision that is very personal for themselves. And it was really important for myself and 16 of my colleagues to be out there with organizers to protest this decision. And as you know, we follow the long tradition of our beloved former colleague, who's now deceased, John Lewis, in creating good trouble, because in this day and age, that decision should not have been overturned. Women in this country have enjoyed that right for nearly 50 years. And we have to do everything that we can. We've legislated. We've introduced legislation to codify Roe into law. We've passed that now twice in the House. We've passed legislation to allow women to legally travel across the states. I can't believe that we have to do that, but we passed legislation to do that. We passed legislation to allow women to have a right to access contraceptives. And every good idea is now dying in the Senate. And so we have to keep the urgency of this moment in the spotlight, and that's why we ended up going out there getting protested.
Well, though you and Attorney General Ellison are leading progressives, the forces organized against you both are trying to create different regressive outcomes. You both have challenges. You, Representative Omar, from former city council member Don Samuels, who's a Democrat, who says he pretty much supports most positions you take, but he charges that you are grandstanding and not delivering for the community. And Keith, you and I know that often people will try to deflect from the reality and discredit hard work being done by public servants. What are you guys both doing to keep your accomplishments in front of voters as we move into both the primary and this critical general election in November? Ilhan, you first, and then Keith.
Well, obviously, it's important for us to be out there to continue to have conversations with people. People in Minnesota's 5th congressional district and in Minnesota are one of the smartest voters out there in the country. That is why we have one of the highest voter turnouts in the country, because people pay attention. They elect public servants that actually care about them, and that are rooted in their communities and urgently meeting the moment. And so, we've done a lot of incredible work, whether it is our Meals Act that has helped now feed nearly 30 million children across the country, whether it is delivering $17 million in community projects to invest in incubators for food entrepreneurs in North Minneapolis, or rebuilding the Lake Street Clinic, or creating green new jobs over at North, or the exceptional constituent services that we provide, where we are actually out in the community and bringing those services to them so that they don't have to just find us in our office, but we are delivering that work to them. The one thing I think that connects my race to the Attorney General's race for the generals, that most of the people that are funding and supporting Keith's opponent Keith's opponents for the general, because the Republicans have a primary, are the same people who are funding and supporting my Democratic opponent. And so that tells you two things. One, it's not really about whether I'm delivering for the district or not, because Republicans obviously have a vested interest in making sure people are not delivering for the 5th. And two, it's about dwindling our resources so that we are not able to mobilize the way that we are supposed to in the 5th in order for Keith to get reelected. And so we have to be able to understand the game that these people are playing. It is not about serving you. It's not about caring for our communities. It's not about getting public servants that will do what is most necessary for you, but it's about having people who will protect the interest of corporations, people who are not going to make good trouble on your behalf, and people who don't want an attorney general that is the people's lawyer on behalf of all of us.
Keith, what about it? Unmute, Keith, unmute.
Look, I am a strong supporter of Ilhan. I think she's doing a wonderful job. She's doing the job that I would have wanted her to do. Some of what Don is trying to say is that she has been too stalwart about trying to reform and make police officer departments better. But my thing is, if you want more public safety, you've got to create a relationship of trust between police and community. When Derek Chauvin kneed on the neck of George Floyd and killed him over those 9.5 minutes, he destroyed the ability for people to trust police in the same way. What we're trying to do is to say, look, if you see a crime, you see a shooting, you're not a snitch. You're not helping the people who killed George Floyd. You're helping your own community. Bad policing erodes the relationship between police and community, which makes it harder for police officers who want to protect community to do a good job. So actually, by saying that officers have to abide by standards, that we need to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, Ilhan's actually promoting public safety. She's making it more likely that if you should be in the tragic situation where a loved one of yours or even you are victims of a crime, that people who saw it will come forward and tell what they know, as opposed to, no, I'm staying out of that because I don't need to be mixed up with those guys. I mean, and then here's the other thing. There's a lot of, and I just want to say, I personally am one who thinks that we do need more people who really care and have compassion for crime victims to join the police department. You can't just leave it all to the Chauvins of this world. You can't just leave it to the Bob Crowells, to the bullies and the racists and the people who, we need some people who have a heart for folks who have been rape victims and have a heart for people who have been shot, or can talk to a mom who's lost her son and doesn't know who did it. And, we need people who care and we're willing to step up. But, some of those people don't want to be shoulder to shoulder with the likes of Derek Chauvin. And so they're actually, policing it, they are faced with a recruiting shortage. I think at least part of it is explained by good people not wanting to be associated with a bad department. And so, I think that, this is something we got to really examine. Now, look, the St. Paul Police Department is not perfect. I'm not here to say they're perfect, but I will say that they haven't had a no-knock warrant since 2016. I will say their reputation is a lot better than Minneapolis. It is not a fact that we have to live with this department. Let me take y'all back to the 1990s. A guy named Mike Sorrow, police officer, was known for being brutal in North Minneapolis. One day he beats up a white kid beats him pretty bad. The white kid sues, and the city's about to settle. Then Mike Sorrow goes on Patriot Radio and a bunch of other conservative radio stations and says, don't settle, don't settle. I was right, and the city's selling me out there going to settle a case where I was in the right. So he gets his way. They go to trial, and they lose bad. A jury finds that the city is liable for a pattern and practice of impunity. This is in the 90s. What I'm saying is, it is time for change. The Newark Police Department is far better than it used to be. They're getting more, and their crime statistics are better. Not only do they have fewer payouts for civil rights violations, not only do they have fewer officer-involved shootings and deaths, they actually have a safer community. And so this is what we're talking about. There are people who want to say, if you are for reforming and transforming policing, then you're not for public safety. These people are wrong. This is wrong. This is untrue. And we've got to stand up and say, good quality policing is associated with good quality cooperation and public safety. You tolerate bad policing, that opens up, like, look, let's just say you're a rational criminal. You're out here doing crime. You want to do crime. You want to sell dope. You want to shoot at people. You want to do bad things. Don't you want to go where the people won't call the police on you because the relationship is horrible? Of course you would. So I'm going on kind of long now, but I'm just trying to make the case that one of the raps on both of us is that, oh, you're not for public safety. We are both very much for public safety. We absolutely believe that everyone has the right to be safe, your property safe, your person safe, your loved ones safe, and we're absolutely for that. But we have stood up for a reform of policing, and some people have, made us try to have come against us because of this, and it's unfair, it's unwise, it's ill-informed, and I hope that most Minneapolis and most people in 5th Congressional District and in Minnesota understand that we can have a higher quality of policing that we've been getting, and this is not to critique the work of Rondo and other folks who've tried to improve the department. They have made good strides. We need to make some more strides, and we can.
Ilhan, I've seen you respond to criticism like this by saying, the progressive ideas that you stand for deserve to be highlighted and pursued. And even if someone wants to criticize you for being progressive, doesn't lessen the value of the pursuit of what is right. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, our legislation, the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, people can say that's progressive, but I think it's common sense, right? It gets us where we need to go. I introduced legislation to ban no-knock warrants with fewer exceptions that would have saved Amir Locke's life. That's why it has the endorsement of his family. We introduced legislation to create a national board to review police misconduct. That in itself, I think, helps make sure that we don't have the Derek Chauvins of the world continue to be on our police force 10 years after they did the same thing. As you know, Derek did that to a 14-year-old before he did it to George Floyd. Luckily, that 14-year-old is alive. George is not. When you think about someone like Dan Samuels, who had the opportunity to reform the police department when he was the chair of the committee that oversaw it, he didn't take that opportunity. He now makes excuses about the police union and all of that. And with the charter amendment that Keith and I advocated for would have done that would have created a new slate and new opportunity for actual changes that would have transformed public safety in our community. And now the city council and the mayor are actually pushing to create that public safety department that they were so up in arms against, and like Dan Samuels wasted our resources, our city resources in suing, right? Because we paid for that litigation. If you think about the amount of payout that we do as city taxpayers, because I lived here my whole life, it's unconscionable that we continue to pay out all of these resources because the police do not serve and protect us. And then I will just say, I know we're running out of time. This one more thing about St. Paul in comparison to Minneapolis. St. Paul, the police have 90% solve rate for their homicides. Minneapolis has 40%. Now, as a Minneapolis resident, we deserve better. If you think about the report that came out that said Minneapolis Police Department was destroying rape kits, I think about the rape victims out there who have not gotten justice because they are served by a police department that is negligent, that is not accountable to the people. And then that negligence is also by the city leaders, including Dan Samuels. And so when we hold people like myself and Keith accountable for saying we deserve better, and don't hold accountable for the people that have brought us to this moment, that have allowed, right, police like Derek Chauvin to stay on the police force, to end up killing George Floyd, to cause all the havoc that we've seen now in the human rights report that has come out. It's unconscionable for those people to have the confidence to say, pick me, I will make a difference in your community, when they're actually responsible for the tragedies that we have been living through.
I think that's loud and clear. I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. My thanks to Ilhan Omar. Representative Ilhan Omar represents the Congressional District number 5 in the U.S. Congress. And my thanks to Minnesota Attorney General
August 9th, don't forget to vote.
And you can vote now, right? Well, vote now for early voting?
Yes.
Early vote.
For the primary coming up. Primary election is August. What date is it? August 9th, yeah. So listen, thank you guys for being here. I want to close the program back to my brother Wain, and thanks to the guys down at the Dakota. Check out Wain and his crew at the Dakota downtown tonight. Let's listen to them in their rehearsal right now. Go ahead. Thanks, guys.
Why are we all waiting? What are we anticipating? The world is now. What are we waiting? Why are we standing up not doing nothing? One person, one vote, yeah. The world is now. All you gotta do is go and vote. What are we waiting for? We can change the world. We can change it. One man, one woman. We can change. One vote, one destiny. We can change the world. We can change. We can change it. Everybody say it all together again. We can change the world. We can believe in what is right. Believe in what is right tonight. We can change it. The world is now. What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? Thank you, Al.
Thank you. Thank you,
Miles
Wain.
McFarlane.
Thank you, Wain. Thank you, Miles McFarlane, your son. Thank you for being there. Great to see you guys. Listen, what a wonderful day. What a wonderful collection. Thanks to Keith Ellison, Attorney General. Thanks to Ilhan Omar. Didn't get to bring him in, but my friend Maestri Sena is monitoring the program from Brazil. My friend in Venezuela, Jesus Garcia, is monitoring the program, getting ready to do something next week, talking to people in Mali about the challenge of community and of sovereignty and of human rights in that country, all around the world. But Wain just said it, the world is ours. The world is now. What are we waiting for? I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. Thank you all for being here. Again, I remind you to go down to the Dakota tonight to check out Wain McFarlane and his magical musical mystery show at the Dakota. I think it's tonight at 7:00. Check him out. Don't miss it. And join me again this time next week for the next broadcast version of The Conversation with Al McFarlane. Of course, we're here every day on social media, and we'd love to have you there as well. Now let's go back to the station. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you, Brenda.